All right, get ready. We're taking a deep dive today into what it takes to ace those passenger fare controller interviews. So you're looking to land that dream job. Well, we are going to make sure you're prepped and ready for anything they throw at you.
That's right. We're going to break down those tricky questions. We'll uncover what those interviewers are really trying to find out. And we're going to give you all the tools you need to build those winning answers.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got our trusty passenger fare controller career guide with us today, some insights into the RoleCatcher platform, and of course, that treasure trove of interview questions. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's kind of set the stage a little bit. I mean, this isn't just about punching tickets, is it?
Definitely not. Think of it more like you're really the face of the whole transportation system.
Right.
You're making sure that every single passenger has a smooth and fair experience. So it's a pretty big deal when you think about it. You're contributing to the pulse of the city. You're keeping things moving.
Okay, I like that. The pulse of the city. All right, so let's jump right in. Let's use those sample interview questions from the career guide. They gave us 10 to work with. So starting with, can you explain your experience with fare collection systems? This one seems pretty straightforward on the surface, but what are they really looking for here?
Well, they want to see how familiar you are with different systems, from the old school ticket punchers to those new mobile apps. Think about it. Have you worked with automated gates before? Or maybe point of sale terminals? Make sure you mention those. But, you know, don't just list them. Showcase your understanding of how they work, how you've used them.
Gotcha. So instead of just saying, I've used X system,
Hmm.
I could see something like, I used X system to process Y transactions, ensuring accuracy by doing Z. Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And always be prepared for those follow-up questions, like what were some of the biggest challenges you faced using that system? Or how do you stay up to date on the latest technology and fare collection? They want to see that you're proactive, that you're eager to learn.
But good advice. Okay, this next one's a little bit daunting, I gotta say. How do you handle difficult passengers who refuse to pay their fare? Ugh, I can already feel my blood pressure rising just thinking about this one.
I know, right? But this is really your time to shine, so try not to worry too much. This is where you get to show off those conflict resolution skills you've got. The interviewer really wants to see that you can stay calm, de-escalate that situation, and follow protocol, all without putting yourself or anyone else at risk.
So should I pull out a story? Like maybe from my old retail job, about a time I had to deal with a really, really irate customer.
Yeah, absolutely. But make sure you bring it back to the passenger fare controller role. Like, how does that story relate to this job? Emphasize your ability to remain professional, how you enforce the rules fairly, and always maintain safety for everyone involved.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, here's one that feels super relevant. How do you ensure accuracy in fare collection? I'm guessing there's a little bit more to this than just counting change.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're really testing your attention to detail, right? And your commitment to fairness. So talk about that meticulous approach you take, whether it's double-checking fares, verifying ticket validity, or knowing when to refer to the guidelines when you're not sure.
Got it. So I could say something like, I always make sure to cross-reference the fare amount with the passenger's destination, especially during those peak hours when things are super hectic.
Yeah, perfect. You're showing that you're aware of potential pitfalls and that you are committed to getting it right every time. Don't forget to mention any systems or techniques you've used to minimize errors. That extra layer of detail can really impress them.
Okay, on to question 4. How do you handle a situation where a passenger has a valid fare but is unable to find their ticket or pass? I mean, this has happened to all of us, right?
It happens to the best of us. Yeah. This one is really all about problem solving and empathy. First, acknowledge that they're frustrated, they're probably stressed, maybe even panicking a little, and then become a ticket detective. Start asking some questions. When and where did they buy the ticket? What type of ticket was it? Any distinguishing features? Anything that might help them remember?
Okay, so I'm gathering clues, helping them retrace their steps, maybe even check the system for recent transactions if possible.
Exactly. And just be prepared for those smuggle-ups. Like, what would you do if you couldn't find any record of their purchase? This is where you get to show that you know the company policy. Maybe you offer them a temporary pass while they keep looking, or you advise them on how to file a lost ticket claim, that sort of thing.
You know, this is making me think about how RoleCatcher could be a lifesaver in this situation.
Oh, for sure. Its AI analyzes thousands of interview responses, specifically for passenger fare controllers, so you can actually see how other top candidates tackled this exact question. Pretty cool, right? So that insight can really help you structure your answer in a way that connects with the interviewers.
I'm starting to see how powerful that AI feedback can be. Okay, back to the questions. Number 5. How do you ensure compliance with fair policies and regulations? Sounds a little official, doesn't it?
It does, and this one goes beyond just those basic tasks. This is about understanding the bigger picture. You're not just taking tickets, you're a guardian of the fair system.
Okay, so I should really highlight my commitment to upholding the rules and my knowledge of why those rules exist.
Exactly. Mention how you stay up to date on the latest policies, how you communicate those fair requirements clearly to passengers, and how you address discrepancies professionally. Always be prepared for those curveball follow-ups, like what would you do if you saw a colleague not enforcing the rules correctly?
Okay, yeah, that's a tricky one. I probably want to consult RoleCatcher's AI on that one, see how others have navigated those ethical gray areas.
Yeah, that's a smart move for sure. The AI can really give you nuanced insights and help you craft an answer that shows your integrity and professionalism.
All right, let's tackle number 6. How do you handle situations where a passenger claims they were charged an incorrect fare? This feels like a delicate balance between customer service and upholding that policy.
It definitely is. You need to show empathy, but also that you are committed to accuracy. Start by acknowledging the passenger's concern and gather all the details. What was their journey? What fare was charged? What type of ticket did they have? Then you got to investigate.
So check the system, compare it to their claim, basically act as a detective to see if there was a real error.
Right. And if an error occurred, apologize and quickly issue a refund or make an adjustment. If the fare was actually correct, you got to explain why. Maybe there was a peak hour surcharge they missed or they accidentally selected the wrong ticket type. Explain it calmly.
And what if they, start to get argumentative?
That's when those de-escalation skills come in handy again. Stay calm, reiterate that fare breakdown, and if you need to, call a supervisor over. RoleCatcher can actually help you practice for these types of scenarios. It analyzes your tone to make sure that you're projecting calmness and control, even when you're under pressure.
Okay, so helpful.
Uh,
I can definitely see myself getting flustered in that kind of situation, so having that AI feedback would be a game changer.
oh,
Okay, question 7. Teamwork time. Can you describe a time when you had to work with a team to resolve a fare collection issue? I love a good teamwork question.
me too. This is your time to shine as a team player. So think of a specific example, a time when you work with others to solve a customer service problem. Ideally, something to do with ticketing or handling money.
So,
Yeah.
I could say in my previous retail role, there was this time when a customer was double charged because of a system glitch. I let my supervisor know right away, worked with my colleagues to investigate, and we all worked together to track down the transaction and give them a refund.
Yeah, perfect. You're showing initiative, communication, and that you are focused on resolution. Be ready for those follow-ups too. What was your specific role in that team? Or what were some of the challenges you ran into working with others?
Okay, getting real now. Question 8. How do you prioritize fare collection tasks when faced with competing demands? This feels like every rush hour, ever.
It is, right? They want to know if you can handle pressure, multitask, make quick decisions. Think about those hectic moments. A long line at the tick counter, a passenger needing help, a system alert flashing. What would you do first?
Well, I'd focus on what's most urgent, right? Maybe help a passenger who's lost their ticket or deal with someone trying to avoid paying their fare.
That's right. And make sure to explain how you would decide that. Maybe you quickly assess the situation, delegate tasks if you can, or let the passengers know about the delay. The key is to show you can stay calm, organized, and efficient, even when it's crazy busy.
This is making me realize how valuable those pros and cons insights from the career guide are. Like mentioning how you thrive in a fast-paced environment and prioritize effectively, those things really address those cons about irregular hours and challenging passengers.
Absolutely. You're turning those potential negatives into positives. You're showing your resilience and adaptability.
Right. Okay, this next question kind of pulls at the heartstrings. How do you handle situations where a passenger can't pay their fare because of financial hardship? This is tricky. You want to be compassionate, but you still got to hold the rules.
Yeah, definitely. This is where your empathy and your problem-solving skills are so important. First, just acknowledge their situation like you genuinely care, then explain the fare policy clearly and see what options are available.
Like maybe see if they qualify for a reduced fare program or offer them a temporary pass?
That's it. And if there are no immediate solutions, then follow the company procedure. Maybe document the incident or refer them to a social service agency. Treat everyone with respect, no matter what their financial situation is.
This is another area where RoleCatcher's AI could be really helpful. It can analyze my response, make sure it has the right balance of empathy and professionalism.
Absolutely. It can also help you customize your answer to specific company policies, which is a huge advantage going into an interview.
Okay, last question. And it feels like the heart of the job. Can you explain your understanding of fare evasion and how you would prevent it? I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road.
It is. They want to see that you take this seriously and you're going to be proactive in protecting the fare system.
So talk about being vigilant, observant of passenger behavior, and knowing the common evasion tactics.
Right. Mention things like carefully inspecting tickets, maintaining a visible presence, and being aware of those potential loopholes. And be ready for those follow-up questions like, what specific actions would you take if you saw someone evading fares? Or how would you handle a confrontational passenger?
Wow, we just cruised through all 10 questions. I feel like I've learned so much already. Any final thoughts on how to ace these interview questions?
Just remember, it's all about understanding what those interviewers are looking for. Showcase those skills that can be transferred: communication, problem solving, staying calm under pressure. And don't forget the power of stories. A good anecdote can make a big difference.
And of course, there's RoleCatcher, with all its AI insights and feedback to help you perfect your answers and stand out from the competition. We'll dive deeper into RoleCatcher and explore more about this ever-changing world of passenger fare controllers in Part 2. Stay tuned.
Oh,
Welcome back. After tackling all those interview questions, I am feeling so fired up and ready to take on the world of passenger fare control. How about you?
yeah, that's the spirit. But don't forget, landing the job is just the first step. Let's look at what our career guide has to say about thriving in this role and how to build a really successful career.
All right, let's do it. So the guide really emphasizes this idea of continuous learning, like staying ahead of the curve, especially because this field is changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
They specifically mention digital ticketing systems, which seem to be changing everything about transportation as we know it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, systems are getting more and more complex all the time, from those contactless payments to those integrated fare platforms. So as a passenger fare controller, you got to be comfortable working with these technologies and figuring out how to fix any problems that come up.
So basic computer skills are important, of course, but what about those specific systems? Like, should I be researching things like AFC or mobile ticketing apps before I even go to the interview?
It definitely wouldn't hurt showing the interviewer that you've taken the time to learn about those industry standard systems. That's going to make a big impression. And think about it, the more you understand about these systems, the more prepared you'll be to handle those real-world situations, like we talked about before, like what if the system crashes during rush hour?
That's such a good point. Okay, so those basic technical skills are actually super crucial for problem solving and for making sure passengers have a smooth experience. The guide also talks about how important communication skills are, which makes sense. There's a lot of interaction with passengers in this job.
Oh yeah, communication is key. You're always interacting with passengers from all walks of life, explaining the fare policies, answering questions, and sometimes you even have to calm things down in tense situations.
It's almost like you have to be a diplomat and a detective and a tech support person all at the same time.
Exactly. And you got to be able to adapt your communication style to all these different types of people. Imagine trying to explain a really complicated fare structure to a tourist who doesn't even speak the language, or trying to calm down a commuter who's just missed their train and they're really frustrated.
Sounds like a crash course in people skills for sure. The guide mentions things like active listening, empathy, and clear communication as those essential tools. Any tips on how to really master those?
Well, active listening is all about really focusing on what the passenger is saying, not just their words, but their body language too. Make eye contact, have open body language, ask questions to make sure you understand what they need.
And empathy is so important, especially when you're dealing with those tough situations. The career guide actually points this out in the pros and cons section, like you can spin those potential negatives about dealing with difficult passengers into positives by showing you can stay calm and de-escalate conflict.
Exactly. It's all about acknowledging that they're frustrated, even if they aren't being very nice about it, and showing that you're really trying to help them. And as for clear communication, just remember to keep things simple. Don't use jargon. Use plain language. Break down those complicated things into smaller pieces.
Like you're explaining it to your grandma. I like it. Okay, I think I'm starting to get a better feel for the communication side of things. But let's talk about how to move up in this job. The guide mentioned some different strategies, things like gaining hands-on experience and showcasing what you can do. Let's break those down.
Well, hands-on experience is super important, especially when you're starting out. The guide suggests things like volunteering or interning at a public transport company or a station. You get to see how things work day to day and learn from the pros.
Yeah, and it's a good way to build up your resume and show that you're serious about this field. But what if those opportunities are hard to find?
Well, don't forget about those transferable skills. Even if you haven't worked directly in transportation before, you can talk about your customer service jobs, anytime you handled money, or times when you had to think fast and solve problems.
Okay, yeah, like connect the dots for those interviewers. Show them how your past experience makes you perfect for this role. The guide also talks about continuous learning as being super important for keeping up with changes.
Absolutely. This industry is changing all the time. New technologies and policies popping up left and right. Take advantage of those training programs that are offered by public transport companies or industry organizations. Those programs can cover all sorts of stuff like fare collection systems, customer service, conflict resolution, even safety protocols.
It's like investing in your future. The more you learn, the more valuable you become, right? The guide also mentions that you could make a portfolio or a website to showcase your skills and experience. Is that really necessary for a passenger fare controller?
It might not be required, but it definitely shows that you're taking initiative and that you're committed to developing professionally. You can put your resume there, certifications, any training you've had, examples of projects, even testimonials from old bosses or colleagues. It's a way to stand out from the crowd and show how passionate you are about this.
It's like saying, hey, I'm not just looking for a job. I'm looking to build a career in transportation. And speaking of standing out, the guide talks about how important networking is in this industry. So how can someone network effectively in the transportation field?
Lots of ways. Join professional organizations like public transport associations or passenger service groups. Go to industry events like conferences or workshops. Connect with people on LinkedIn and join in on conversations about the industry. You never know what opportunities or insights you might get from those connections.
It's all about building those relationships and learning from others and keeping up with all the trends. It can seem a little intimidating, especially when you're new to the field, but it sounds like it can really pay off down the road. And speaking of long-term success, I want to come back to RoleCatcher and all those cool AI features it has. We touched on it before, but I'm still amazed by how much this platform can help people prepare for interviews and give answers that are tailored to the specific jobs they're applying for.
Yeah, it's a total game changer. RoleCatcher's AI analyzes thousands of interview responses for all sorts of roles, including passenger fare controllers. It figures out patterns, highlights what works best, and even gives you feedback on how you deliver your answers and what your tone is like. It's basically like having your own personal interview coach who knows exactly what those hiring managers want to hear.
And I love that it can help you tailor your answers to fit specific companies and their policies. So you're not giving these generic answers. You're showing them that you've done your homework and that you get what's important to them.
Exactly. And it can even point out areas where you can improve. Maybe you tend to ramble when you're nervous, or your tone comes across as too casual. The AI can pick up on those little things and help you refine how you deliver your answers so you project confidence and professionalism.
It's like having a mirror that doesn't just show you what you look like, but how you sound and how you come across to other people. That'd be so helpful, especially for someone who gets nervous in interviews.
Totally. It takes all the guesswork out of prepping for an interview and gives you the tools and the insights to present yourself as the perfect candidate.
This has been so eye-opening. I'm realizing that to be successful as a passenger fare controller, you really need this unique combination of technical skills, communication skills, and you got to have a genuine passion for the transportation industry.
It's definitely a dynamic role, and it can be challenging, but it can also be super rewarding. You're helping to keep this vital public service running smoothly, you get to interact with all kinds of people, and you play a huge role in keeping the city moving.
I'm inspired. Okay, but before we get too carried away with dreams of becoming transportation heroes, let's bring things back down to earth for a minute and think about some real-life scenarios that might trip you up. We'll dive into those challenges and talk about how to handle them like a pro in part 3, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the world of passenger fare controllers. We've talked about a lot, from breaking down those interview questions to exploring different career paths, and now it's time to actually put all that knowledge to work.
Yeah, exactly. Let's dive into some of those real-world scenarios that could really throw you for a loop as a passenger fare controller. And we'll talk about how to handle them like you've been doing it for years.
Okay, I'm ready. Bring it on. Let's start with a classic.
Yeah.
Picture this. You're at a busy train station, it's rush hour, the line is out the door, and boom, the ticket validation system crashes. Chaos. What do you do?
Okay, first things first. Take a deep breath and stay calm. Remember, you're the face of the transit system right now. You got to communicate clearly with the passengers. Let them know about the problem and apologize for the inconvenience. Being upfront and honest really helps in these situations.
Okay, so I'm calming everyone down and trying to get the system back up and running. But what if it's a total system outage? I mean, we can't just have everything at a standstill during rush hour.
Right, exactly. That's where those problem-solving skills we talked about come in. You might have to put a backup plan into action. Maybe you start checking tickets manually, issue those temporary passes, or direct passengers to a different place to board. You got to think fast and be flexible.
It's like all that interview prep is coming in handy now. We talked about staying calm under pressure, making quick decisions, communicating clearly. It's all coming together.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Reach out to your supervisor or your colleagues. Teamwork is essential in these kinds of situations.
Okay, crisis averted. But technology isn't the only thing that can go wrong. Let's talk about those dreaded, difficult passengers. Okay, say you're on a packed bus, you're checking tickets, and you run into someone who gets really aggressive when you ask to see their fare.
Yeah, that's tough. But
Yeah.
you got to remember your safety and the safety of the other passengers comes first. Always. Don't engage with someone who's being aggressive. Try to de-escalate, stay calm, speak in an even tone.
So should I try to talk them down or explain the fare policy? Would that help?
It depends. Sometimes just letting them know you understand they're upset can help. You could say something like, I get that you're frustrated, but I'm just doing my job. Everyone on board needs a valid ticket.
And if they just keep getting more and more angry?
If it starts to feel dangerous, if you feel threatened, you just step back and contact your supervisor or security right away. Your safety is the most important thing, and you have the right to feel safe at work.
Okay, safety first. Got it. So we've dealt with system crashes, angry passengers. What other curveballs might come up in this job?
Okay, imagine you're working at a station during a huge event, like a concert or a big game, anything that draws massive crowds. Think long lines, maybe some people who've had a bit too much to drink. Just a lot of excitement and chaos.
I can feel the energy already. Sounds like a recipe for some crowd management challenges.
It can be, but it's also your chance to really shine. You can show up your communication and organizational skills. So first, be prepared. Know the event schedule, how big the crowd is expected to be, and any procedures for dealing with big crowds.
Got it. So I'm checking the signs, making sure announcements are clear, and maybe even getting those temporary passes ready just in case the ticketing system can't handle the load.
Exactly. And remember, people need to be able to see you. Position yourself so passengers can find you easily if they have questions. Stay calm, be professional, even when it's crazy busy.
Be the eye of the storm, calm in the middle of all that chaos.
That's it. And don't be afraid to call for backup if you need it. Remember, you got to make sure all the passengers are safe and secure.
Wow, these scenarios really show how important it is to be able to adapt, think on your feet, and have those strong communication skills.
For sure. Being a passenger fare controller is so much more than just checking tickets. It's about solving problems, communicating effectively, and protecting the fare system.
It's definitely a dynamic and challenging job, but also really rewarding.
Yeah.
So for anyone thinking about this career path, what advice would you give them?
Have a good attitude, be willing to learn new things, and have a genuine desire to give great service. Be ready for the unexpected. Use your resources. And remember RoleCatcher. Don't underestimate how much of an impact you can have on people's everyday lives.
And with that, we've come to the end of our deep dives into the world of passenger fare controllers. We hope this episode has given you all the knowledge, the insights, and the confidence to nail that interview and start an amazing career in transportation.
Thanks for listening.
And until next time, happy commuting, everyone.